Kaleb Proctor, I'm just going to point out, doesn't necessarily look like a defensive tackle. If you look at his body, this is one of those guys you like to hand a cheeseburger to. Just saying. He's
he played at like 275 for sure. And yet he was still bullying LSU.
tackling grade's a little bit lower, 49, but pass rush grade 91. He does come in for me as a tier 1 Packers defensive tackle. Kind of hits a lot of the stuff you're looking for.
Begging at 84. Begging.
He comes in at exactly 1 impact play per game, which is the threshold we're looking for.
Guys, pants are going to be off if they go Lawrence and Proctor. Okay? If that's their day 2, pants are off. All right, go ahead.
I got a question for you. Since this is a family-friendly show, what do you mean when you say pants come off? What do you mean by that? This is a family-friendly show. What are you doing with your pants? You poop in your pants, so you got to wash them?
No, we're waving them around.
There you go.
So,
all right.
Yeah,
talk to us about Kaleb Proctor and why you like him as a fit for Green Bay's defense.
Yeah, so I think it's pretty simple for me with Proctor. It's you're chasing the upfield burst across face. All of these things that make like a really, really good sub package rusher from day one. Like it's not, and I think Peter Woods does this, by the way, of like he's moving the feet a lot, so it gives you that like it gives the illusion that like, oh man, look at this athlete, look at the feet chopping, look which way can he go, and he doesn't really get anywhere, right? Whereas Proctor, I feel like when he gets up the field, he is second, third step can turn the corner on guards, and if for those who are interested. Right, because I know United Bates asking the question, and again, Green Bay's visited. I did a little short on YouTube for him. I cleared out all my shorts, didn't really want them on there, and started doing draft ones instead of
first.
Just
he's talking
Packers
about pants,
ones,
now he's talking
right?
about shorts.
So I did a little bit of his game against LSU and just a couple things that I think make him really, really intriguing of like, if we're looking back in 3 years at like, yeah, this class wasn't very good. Who's the most impactful player on it? I'm just saying, I think it's very possible in 2028, we could be talking about like, oh yeah, remember this guy was small school guy. And like, he's getting pressure after pressure. And I know he's not a full-time player, but none of these guys are. And so who's making the biggest impact? Like, just saying. I think him, and we could be talking about like the best, early down anchor player is McDonald, and the best pass rusher of this class is Proctor. Like, I think that's the type of thing we could be talking about in 28, because again, you watch him take 2 steps up the field with urgency and intensity, and it's not wasted movement. And then you watch him be pretty much as springy as like Romello Height. If you've watched Romello Height cross face on inside moves, like it is that he is displacing that much. I can't believe some of the things he's able to do to cross face on the center and guards against LSU. And I know LSU doesn't have the best like team, but that's the best competition he played against. And again, he's wrecking them, consensus defensive tackle 1, Peter Woods was wrecking them to a degree. Like he took care of business in that game. I think he, and sometimes I think there's one-on-ones where he is doing his job like kind of like Lawrence, where the extension's good and he can sit down and he can anchor. He's never going to be a take on double team guy, but again, he could be that attack gap slashing, and he can play through contact balance. The twists and stunts are not going to be any problem because he changes direction so well. Like all of that to me really indicates that this is a player at 84. If you're chasing again, what are we chasing at 84? Like we're always chasing starters, right? But we're chasing impact.
That was definitely the word that I came through.
We're chasing starters, but also we should be, again, if he can play at 290 without sapping any of that athleticism, then, it's, I think, still doable for him to be a DT3. And like, is there any level of like technical and well-rounded upside that you're chasing in any of these other defensive tackles versus him. I think Halton's the other one at this point that you'd be chasing that level of upside with a player in your rotation who can create pressure, because that's the name of the game, right? You want to be able to do that. I don't think any of these nose tackles are going to be like doing any of that. Right?
No,
like,
not
I
at
don't
all.
think you're
Certainly
going
not in this class. It's
right. And so like I wouldn't be worried about the nose tackles here. So if you're chasing pressure, right, if that, which I think they should be doing. Yes, Sorrell, Oliver, that's nice. Wyatt hopefully comes back and is healthy. What else besides Parsons coming off injury?
well, and this
Right?
is why I'm so drawn to the defensive tackles that I am in this class. Kaleb Proctor, Grayson Halton,
Yeah. Chase the
Skylar
juice.
Howard.
Chase the juice.
They are very flawed, but they have high motor, high pressure rate. They can get after the passer. There's some stuff to refine with all three of them.
And it's
I'm
a more
looking at a very
valuable role.
flawed. I'm looking at a very flawed defensive tackle class where
Yes.
there just aren't anybody. There's nobody who's going to give you the full package you're looking for. And so, okay, it's not that I don't care about stopping the run, but if you're going to get me a flawed defensive tackle, let's get a guy who's making life miserable for the quarterback.
Yes. Yeah.
I love watching Grayson Halton play because he's so slippery. He's not the biggest guy in the world. None of these three guys are all three of them. The biggest knock on all three of these guys is that they're small. Kaleb Proctor is short and he's skinny. Skylar Gil Howard is super short. Grayson Halton is too small. But they all have pass rush juice. And that is where the upside for me comes in. All right. You want to go get a run stuffer? Cade McDonald has proven that he can come in there and just be a log jam that you have to go around. And like, you better give him wide berth, because if you run anywhere near him, he's going to get you on the ground if you're not a quarterback. But if you're not going to provide anything in the pass rush game, you need to be that good as a run defender, that good as Cade McDonald is, for me to be that excited about you. And so, you know, it's not that I don't like Lee Hunter. It's not that I don't like Dominique Orange. But if you're going to be kind of limited in your ability to rush the passer, I want you to be a dominant run defender. I don't want you to be like, yeah, he's pretty good at shutting down the run. Like, frankly, even Kristen Miller. And, you know, I like Kristen Miller. I think a lot of my hype about Kristen Miller comes from seeing how amped up you get about him. But I like Kristen Miller.
I think it's just because the football mind is so good, and it's understandably good because of where he's playing and like the system that he's in.
Same with Skylar
right?
Gil Howard. Like,
Right, exactly.
Brilliant.
Like, it's just the system they're in and everything that they're asking him to do. Like, you have to be aware of a lot of stuff. And so, especially because you know you have a good defense and you know teams are going to be pulling out everything possible to attack, right? Like they're going to leave no stone unturned. And so, yeah, with the Gil Howards and the Millers, who I think just have a really good understanding, I still think Miller's the second surge type of thing when he doesn't get that kind of quick win with the hands. It's not
Miller's
really
exciting
there. And
because
that's the type of thing. I know someone was asking about McClellan as well. It's like when McClellan doesn't get that quick win right with the hands, especially against centers, it looks pretty like I just kind of stuck. I can't really, and like I don't think the caliber of athleticism is to the point where it's like, okay, yeah, he can just be surviving on that. Whereas some of these guys who already have that baseline floor go, okay, can we add a move here, here, and here? Can we, improve what you're seeing against the run? Can we improve, how you want to attack and where down the line you want to attack when you run stunts? Like, and I think he has a really good one against LSU where he smashes into the tackle really brilliantly while maintaining speed. And that's something where it's like, oh my gosh, Proctor could just go smack dudes. And that's the thing, right? A lot of these guys through contact are getting stuck. Peter Woods is a really good example of a guy who just, when the contact and he doesn't have the hands in the right spot, the contact just stops him in the tracks. And that's where it's like the great DTs, yes, there's still, the pressure rates are down and you go, yeah, they're only still doing this. Like, you can show the highlights, but not every play is like that. True. But very often they have some second surge to them. And not a lot of these guys have that second surge, who are these bigger guys who are kind of like, yeah, he can kind of do everything, or he's a nose tackle, right? And they just don't have a lot of second surge moves. And it's like even Miller, who I think, again, kind of like McClellan, where it's like he gets some of these quick wins, and you're like, whew, my goodness. And then you're just like, okay, but what happens when the initial one is done? And it's kind of like, yeah, he doesn't really, there's nowhere for him to go from there. And it's like, okay. Whereas like these guys who already have the baseline movement skills required, like Proctor and Holton and Gil Howard, to, okay, I can cross the face. I can spin off this because I'm a really quick mover, right? Like, and I have the balance through contact to execute those level of spins and all that stuff. That's why you're chasing that level of burst and explosiveness, because you think, okay, you get them in the strength room, they're getting through contact a lot better. Boom, we have a player in our rotation for a long time who's going to be valuable because he's creating those negative plays that are impacting the game so much. That's why you chase these guys, right? That's kind of, I think, that the thing that, when you talk about a Proctor and when we're like, why are you guys excited about this? That should be it. That really should be it, where it's like, yeah, these other nose tackles are kind of cool, but you just don't, there aren't that many movers like this in this class, right? And like, yeah, if you saw Proctor's a 270-pound edge, I think you'd still be like, holy crap. He's moving better than some of these edge rushers are moving. And so I think that's the difference. That's the difference.
Where Kristen Miller is exciting and where he separates himself from these guys is the body frame that he has to work with, the
For sure.
size and athleticism, where, okay, you're impressed by his high football IQ. I'm impressed with Skylar Gill-Howard's high football IQ, and the body type is completely different. So Kristen Miller, yeah, the technique is not really anywhere near as refined as you need it to be, and the numbers are not that good. Like his production numbers on the field are pretty stinky, but the football IQ is very high, and when he's ready to put it all together, he's got everything in his physical toolbox that you need to go out there and execute at a consistently high level and hit that next ceiling that, sure, Skylar Howard is never going to hit because he's absolutely tiny.
Yeah. No, it's true. It is true. And I think that's why size, I think, plenty of people point to that. Where it's like, why they're not drafting, why Green Bay's not drafting the smalls, because like, I think like they, there are plenty of guys bigger than you out there, right? That's the Pons discussion of like, is he just going to get thrown to the side by like an AJ Brown or a Puka, who are bigger physical players? Like, are you going to get pushed aside as a defensive tackle because you're not as big as some of these guys who are 320? Sure. But, okay. The difference is, right, if you're looking for guys in this class who are like, hey, I just don't want this guy to get pushed around, sweet. You can get a bunch of them. There are a lot of those guys, okay? You don't have to, again, say it 3 more times. You don't have to be tripping over yourself to go like, hey, man, look, this guy can't be moved off the ball. It's like, yeah, Poona Ford can't be moved off the ball. You can go get him. Every year he's a free agent. Like, it's a thing you can go do, right? Ashad Robinson, he's running around to a bunch of different teams every year. He can help your run defense if that's what you're looking for, right? And so, like, again, yes, McDonald, would that be super fun because he's young and there's maybe something untapped there? And if you really focus him up and let him maybe unload rushing the passer a little bit more, you find a little something? Very possibly, yes, right? But with these Proctors and Holtons and Gil Howards, you're finding something that is different and will wreak havoc, which is what you need to happen up front. Again, you can bring in when the 3rd and 7's out there, you don't want those nose tackles out there anymore. Why? Because it's important to get home. And so the ability to have somebody like this in the rotation, where just thinking about Proctor and Wyatt and Parsons, right, getting after the QBs, I think is really, really exciting. And so it also, as crazy as it sounds, like Proctor, if Green Bay's like, yeah, maybe we don't want you at 290, maybe we want you at 270. I think he's a little more flexible than like the Garys that they've brought in, right? And so, but again, the Van Ness, Proctor, Wyatt, Parsons grouping gets kind of insane because think about this. You can have a guy like Van Ness smashing into tackles from the inside, and then you're letting Proctor's change of direction skill and burst loop around to get in the QB's face. Or same deal with like, maybe Proctor's running into a guy and Parsons is rolling around, or Wyatt and Proctor are doing, or you've got Proctor involved in like getting Cooper a free look. Like so much of this, I think, it gives you some of these pressure looks that you really want to get to when the time comes and you need to have wins. And that's where some of these guys are just going to have more in their bag down the road to be able to get wins because they're just more athletic. Obviously, they're lighter, but they're more athletic, and that athleticism that can hang on for quite some time, right? Especially if you're a young player. So,
are you worried about Kaleb Proctor putting on weight? So if he were to get up to, so Kristen Miller is an inch and a half taller and like 35 pounds heavier than Kaleb Proctor.
Yeah.
If Proctor put on 25 pounds, are you at all worried about that impacting his game, or is that just what you want him to do?
I would probably just keep him around this 290 to 300, right? Because I think Halton's around there too. And like, I don't think, again, when you're chasing somebody like Proctor, you're hoping that he wants to be up for the fight against the run, which I think there are examples of that, especially the LSU game where he wanted to get up for that LSU game, which is great. And you hope that he gets up for every game. And that's maybe something they were asking about. I have no idea. I wouldn't ask Proctor to go get to 310 or 315. Like, I think if he can still play at this 295 range, 290 to 295 range, at the level of burst and speed and change of direction, flexibility, all that stuff, maintaining speed on different tracks around to the QB, not just a linear one, I wouldn't touch anything at this point. Like, if you feel comfortable that 295 is like a limit where you go, yeah, he's maxed out here and he's destroying Banks and Belton and Camp, and nobody can block him. And we had to throw Zach Tom in there to try and stop him because Tom at least has the good footwork to stop him, right? So, yeah, I wouldn't mess with it. Again, I think this is a perfect storm of you want a Vandenberg, a Regis, you want Tim Keenan, that's fine too. Like you want the K parts, you want the guys like that on day 3 who can just go, okay, yeah, we'll bring you in the rotation. You're standing up the run. You're going to keep our linebackers free. Awesome. And then when it's time to make something happen, you bring in somebody like this rotation. Like, I think it might be pie in the sky, JJ. We know how good he feels about defensive tackle, right? Thinking that he's going to go get a Proctor at 84 and then go get a nose tackle to kind of round out the room. Maybe we're asking too much. I don't know, but again, it's just the fascinating discussion about what you should be chasing. I think in this draft, especially because of how the defensive tackle class looks, like I just would be chasing these